If you didn't know, CinemaCon is happening right now. The event where we get a whole bunch of studios coming in to showcase new projects and upcoming projects that they have planned and slated for release. Day 1 and day 2 have come and gone, with day 3 happening right now as we speak. And because I am finally on my weekend, I wanted to talk about day 1 and day 2 and get into some of the projects that I found to be quite entertaining and something that I have anticipation for. So jumping into it, starting off with day 1, Sony Pictures came out swinging with a whole bunch of news and different projects that they have slated for release, whether we got a release date or not. But Sony came in and started off their panel with a ton of Spider-Man news, which will bring me to our first topic today. We finally have a release date and a title card for the new Tom Holland Spider-Man 4 movie, calling it Spider-Man Brand New Day. And this new title card, obviously they have dropped the Home title. This is the end of the Home trilogy. We are starting the Day trilogy. And I have to say that this new title card looks like it may give off some classic Spidey vibes. Very bright colors, maybe being a little bit similar to the animated series that came out not too long ago. And well, the truth is we still do not know much about this movie. There are so many rumors surrounding it. Things like the movie being rumored to take place right alongside Doomsday, Chameleon being the main villain of this 4th film, and even Tom Holland getting his black Spider-Man suit. But nonetheless, we are underway and I cannot wait to see it. And I'm very interested to see how this next chapter in Tom Holland's Spider-Man movie goes and how this approach will be tackled. Will the spell remain intact? Will this be multiversal? And I do think that that is probably more likely, but I do hope that the movie opens up with some classic grounded Spidey crime fighting type of vibes. Destin Daniel Cretton, the director for this film, did say that it will be a ride that we haven't really seen. And I really look forward to that. And not to mention, Tom Holland is now the first Peter Parker to get 4 films under his belt. But moving along to some other Spider-Man news that Sony decided to showcase on day 1, we have finally gotten an update, a first look at Spider-Man Beyond the Spider-Verse. And oh man, I'm excited for this one. We finally have a release date. It comes out June 4th, 2027. So we got a little more than 2 years and some change to wait for this movie. There was some exclusive footage shown for those who attended, and they came out and said that this movie was going to take up immediately where Across the Spider-Verse left off. Phil Lord, the producer for this film, came out saying that they were going to be breaking the boundaries of animation. And you know what? I think that it shows. The few pictures that we got from this announcement look absolutely stunning. They look beautiful, vibrant colors. It is an awesome first look, but it is a pain in the ass that we have to wait 2 years. But nonetheless, we are finally going to get our 3rd installment to this fantastic trilogy. I'm not gonna lie to you, with all the drama that was going around about Shameik Moore and a lot of the things that he was saying, I was worried about this film. Not to the point where I was for sure certain that anything was going to be canceled or moved around, but there was definitely some moments where I was sitting there and I was listening to the drama that was going on around Shameik and just wanted bro to shut up, because you know how studios are. Lately, you can't really say much or be controversial in any way because these studios will just either recast, get rid of you, or cancel the project altogether. So I definitely thought that if he did not get out of the spotlight in the way that he was, there was a definite possibility that this project could be in jeopardy. But I'm glad to see that it isn't, at least for right now, because my anticipation for this story and where it could leave off, where it could go, is just through the roof. I'm really looking forward to this fight between the Moraleses, and I'm interested to see if maybe Miles can pull through and prevent this canon event from happening, because if he does without a stitch, that'd be crazy. Or maybe he doesn't, or maybe he does stop this canon event and maybe that causes some kind of incursion. But it will be 4 years since we have gotten the 2nd movie by the time this 3rd movie comes out, finally getting our conclusion and our massive finale, as they said on stage. And I am just so excited. Let me know what you thought about all the Spider-Man news that Sony dropped on day 1 of CinemaCon. Moving outside of the Spider-Man stuff, we got a brand new trailer for Karate Kid Legends. Now, if you didn't know, this is a movie where our new Karate Kid and main character Lee is moving to New York for a fresh start, but cannot leave the kung fu behind. Master Han follows him to New York to try and give him some guidance, but ends up turning to the Valley's very own Daniel LaRusso in order to train Lee in the ways of Miyagi-Do and trying to get him ready and prepped to win the 5 boroughs, which is the biggest kung fu competition in the city. Now, I'm not gonna lie to you, this seems very similar to the very first film within the Karate Kid franchise. New kid in the area meets a girl whose ex-boyfriend is now kind of jealous and wants to fight and bully our main character, leading up to a final showdown at this big time competition. And even though it does feel very similar, I'm okay with it. I look forward to seeing LaRusso and Han work together and kind of bring these 2 iterations in the franchise together. Action in this new film seems to be way top notch and way crazier than anything that we have seen before in the franchise. Overall quality of the film just looks beautiful, looks like it has been handled with care, just all around amazing. And remember that this movie takes place about 2 years after the events of Cobra Kai. So I hope that we get to see some fun cameos, even if it is small roles like Johnny, Miguel, Robbie Keane, maybe even Daniel LaRusso's son, since he was a little bit younger and is still going through high school, if not just graduated. But overall, this film looks like it's going to be a lot of fun and a nice and meaningful standalone project within this franchise. So I'm excited for it. Are you excited for it? Let me know how you're feeling about Karate Kid Legends down in the comments. Moving on to talk about some video game to live action adaptations, things that we got announced on day 1. And man, I think that there is a lot of buzz surrounding these projects. Starting out with the Legend of Zelda movie. Sony came out and confirmed that they were looking to create this live action adaptation of the Legend of Zelda. This is going to be directed by Wes Ball, and it is coming out in March of 2027. Now, we didn't get any kind of footage or casting announcement regarding this project, but either way, it's no secret that this is a huge deal. Video games turned to live action adaptations has kind of become the next big thing, the talk of the town. And it's been that way for a few years now, and this project really isn't no different. As a kid, I did play a little bit of Zelda on the N64, but I do gotta admit, I was never that deep into the lore, into the franchise. I mean, I do know who Link is, but other than that, like I said, N64 was the last time I played this game. But even myself, I am curious to see how this movie plays out, and I am interested to go and see this. And like I said before, the video game turn to live action industry has kind of been thriving. They have been doing extremely well, whether it's projects like the Far Cry series, Last of Us, the Mario movie, and Sonic. And there are quite a few more that have done really well. And I think that a lot of people get very nostalgic feelings while watching these movies, especially when they are done right. And they love to see some of their best childhood memories come to life. The Legend of Zelda is a widely loved franchise, and you better believe that people are going to be paying close attention. And if they need to, they're going to come at you just the same way that they came for Sonic. But the hype for this movie is absolutely there, and will continue to be there as we get some casting announcements and a first look at what this world might even look like and the approach that they decide to go with for this world. Moving it on over to another video game to live action adaptation, but not one that we haven't seen before, Resident Evil. Now, this is a new one that's coming out, seeming to be another reboot. It's going to be directed by Zach Krieger, and I do find this one interesting because this franchise was attempted to be rebooted a few years ago, and I'm gonna be honest with you, I didn't see that one. I really liked and kind of grew up with the Mila Jovovich one and her iterations of the Resident Evil franchise, and I know I butchered her name, but even I gotta admit that those films did become more of action thrillers than they did horror type of movies, and they did not follow the story of this beloved video game franchise. And there's no doubt, you can look it up, that was a problem for many fans. But here in this announcement, Sony comes out and says that this new iteration will focus heavy on the horror aspect of this IP and that it was built in the spirit of the video games. Now, if you are a fan of this franchise, I know you'd love to hear that. That's got to get you pretty excited, right? Zach Krieger seems to be a genuine fan of these games and their tone. And if he can deliver on his words, this will be a massive dub for the video game turned live action industry. We do not have a release date yet, so we definitely will be looking forward to when we do get some more information regarding Resident Evil and this new reboot. How are you feeling about these two live action adaptations of these beloved video game franchises? Let me know down in the comments. And while those are just some of the projects and announcements that were announced on day 1, those are some of the ones that I find the most interesting, bringing us over to day 2, where we had Lionsgate and Warner Brothers come out on stage and give us some of their announcements. And we're going to be starting out here with Lionsgate, who came out swinging real hard with the John Wick franchise. Oh my God. Lionsgate came out with some heavy hitters, announcing 4 John Wick projects, 1 that is about to be released, 3 that are going into production, those being The Ballerina, which is releasing June 6th of this year and will be taking place in between John Wick 3 and 4. We also got announced Kane, where we follow Danny Yen's character from the 4th movie. No release date for that yet. We got announced an animated project showing the early years of John Wick. And finally, John Wick himself, the 5th chapter was announced, bringing back Keanu Reeves for yet another film. So I'm gonna kind of talk about these 4 announcements kind of all together bundled up in one. And let me tell you, I love this franchise. John Wick is dope and badass. Those first 4 films were done so well with so much action that even if they aren't the greatest movies ever in terms of acting ability, the world that they built in these John Wick films is just so interesting and it's so much fun to dive in that honestly, they got my money either way. I'm jumping into whatever movie they release revolving this world. Whatever John Wick project they decide to give us, I'm there. And truthfully, that's because I have no doubt that they can tell these great stories. I'm pretty interested in the Ballerina project, and Donnie Yen's character in the 4th movie was dope and badass too. And when I watched the TV series The Continental, which is the latest show within the John Wick universe, I was pleasantly surprised by the quality of action, acting, and the cinematography that was put into this show. I absolutely loved it, and what it did for the franchise and kind of broadening the world was fantastic, and they did a great job. And not to mention this animated prequel movie, come on, you know that that's going to be crazy. And I feel like a animated John Wick movie is kind of primed to be in a anime style type of animation. And honestly, I think that that's perfect, seeing John Wick in his early years, full-fledged working for the Continental in his heyday of just kicking ass and taking contracts. Hell yes. Honestly, I have all the confidence in the world that these 4 John Wick projects are going to be badass. Bringing us on over to another franchise that is getting a sequel that I really wasn't too sure originally if we ever would see a 3rd film. But Lionsgate came out and announced that we are getting the Now You See Me Part 3, entitled Now You See Me, Now You Don't. Yep, they came out with a small little teaser revealing that they heard you and that they listened. This movie is set to release November 14th of this year. Man, I'm excited for this. I know folks said that the magic in the 2nd movie was getting kind of ridiculous, but in all honesty, I don't care. I have so much fun with these movies. The cast is amazing. The tricks and the scams are a lot of fun. So I will gladly take a 3rd film. It has been a while since I've watched that 2nd film, so I'm not too sure where they can go with this 3rd one, but nevertheless, you can guarantee that I will be tuning in to watch this one. Now You See Me, Now You Don't. How are you feeling about this announcement? Let me know. Bringing us over to a movie that none of us knew was even in production, and I'm gonna be honest, it's kind of weird. Hurry Up Tomorrow. This is a film that is starring both Jenna Ortega and The Weeknd, and it got its first trailer, and I will tell you that this movie looks like a even more twisted and creepy version of Misery. This is going to be directed by Trey Edward Schultz, and in this movie we follow this fictionalized version of The Weeknd, who begins to kind of unravel and have a mental breakdown after meeting a mysterious stranger played by Jenna Ortega. And while truthfully I don't know what to make of this thing looked creepy, it looked a little bit twisted. There's all type of red flags going off for this movie, but for some reason I found it to be so intriguing, the story that they're going with or potentially going with. Jenna Ortega is seemingly playing this kind of crazy and obsessed fan who kidnaps The Weeknd and ties him up and maybe even sets him on fire. Not to mention she's setting houses and everything else on fire. This movie seems like it's going to be some kind of psychological thriller, and I'm kind of interested. And apparently this will be connected to The Weeknd's album, which shares the same name. Now, as far as Lionsgate goes, that was kind of the end. That was kind of the last one that kind of caught my eye. And so we're going to move on where Warner Brothers took the stage. And this is one that I was definitely waiting for because I was wondering if we were going to get any new information regarding Superman, which we kind of did. Warner Brothers and James Gunn started off the panel with Superman, and honestly I find this one to be a little bit weird because I am extremely interested to watch Superman later this year, really in just a few months, but they didn't even release another trailer. Now Warner Brothers did show some footage, but it was pretty much the beginning of the first trailer that we got in December. Basically the footage was that we see Superman crash land into the snow. Crypto is absolutely abusing Superman, jumping all over him, stomping him out before he finally grabs him by the cape and takes him to the Fortress of Solitude so that this robot, who is apparently voiced by Alan Tudyk, can tend to his wounds. And that was pretty much it. And look, with this movie, there is so much controversy surrounding it, and it honestly is very weird that we haven't got a second trailer yet. And even for this presentation, it was said that their goal was to bump up the anticipation, which is why there wasn't much footage that was shown. But with the recent test screenings kind of going both ways, you got people who liked it, people who said that it was horrible and just more of James Gunn's goofiness and sense of humor, I would think that a second trailer would be beneficial in this type of situation. But we're just gonna have to see and wait, see it for ourselves and see how it goes. Moving right along, talking about some Sinners. This is the vampire thriller starring Michael B. Jordan, directed by Ryan Coogler, set to be released April 25th of this year, 2025. Sinners was teased as part of Warner Brothers' early slate release schedule, and that's probably all right because we have gotten quite a bit of footage since the marketing for this movie kind of ramped up. But personally, I'm excited for this one too. Michael B. Jordan and Ryan Coogler together are just an amazing duo and work absolutely phenomenal together, and so I look forward to seeing this vampire thriller because it looks like it's going to be a lot of fun. Talking about lastly, the one that kind of caught my eye and that I'm really excited for, Mortal Kombat 2. We got a release date for Mortal Kombat 2, which is to be set to release on your boy's birthday, October 24th of this year, 2025. Now, the first one was another movie that I found to be quite enjoyable. I know not a lot of people feel that way, but I thought that the fatalities were dope. There was so much action and brutality. There was so much blood, and it was just crazy to see that these characters come into live action in a new and modern way. And honestly, I cannot wait to see how they up the ante on this one. Now, it's widely known that we're going to be following Johnny Cage kind of as our main character for this one. And Carl Urban, man, even though I wasn't too impressed when he first got cast as Johnny Cage, I thought that they would maybe take a younger approach. Carl Urban is dope, man. He is a good and enjoyable actor. He's got the comedic chops to pull off a really good Johnny Cage, and I look forward to seeing his interpretation and how he plays him. Not to mention the fact that we're now going to actually be in a tournament for this movie. Man, this one's shaping up to be a pretty good one, and I think that things are about to get real crazy. Now, before we end this one off, there are a few notable mentions that I have to just at least say their names. We also got a little bit of a follow-up of Anaconda, the movie with Jack Black and Paul Rudd, who in a world where the original Anaconda movies exist are going to be kind of these fans who are trying to recreate this film. It's going to be kind of this comedy horror movie, and while I am interested in this one, I'm not really a huge fan of Jack Black. I don't really dislike him, but listen, my obnoxious humor guide to go to has always been Jim Carrey. Jack Black is a little bit out there. And with Paul Rudd recently doing The Death of a Unicorn and me not being too impressed with that performance, I'm not highly anticipating this movie. Attendees were also shown a little bit of footage of the new remake, I Know What You Did Last Summer. I can't really speak too much on this one just because I haven't seen the original one, which I might just go watch today for the hell of it. But we do know that this is going to be following an entirely new set of characters who will look to the OG characters for help because they have been in a similar situation before. And so I'm definitely going to check out that first one. I think there's actually 3 of them. I'll probably watch the first 2. I heard the third one was kind of booty, but the information surrounding this new remake is definitely getting me interested. So we'll have to see how that one goes. Another remake that is a worthy mention is the American Psycho reimagined remake movie. Now, I did see the original American Psycho with Christian Bale. Thought it was kind of a fun movie. It was a little bit twisted. Christian Bale absolutely nailed that role. Did not watch the second one. I believe it was Mila Kunis, right? But I'm interested to see the approach for this new remake. And hopefully, I doubt it probably won't be a one-to-one remake. So I'm interested to see the story that they tell and kind of the differences that are thrown in there. And lastly, another notable mention was this movie entitled F1 that's going to be starring Brad Pitt. It's one of those NASCAR-esque racer type of movies where we're going to be following the character Sonny Hayes in the 90s, who was a driver for this company called Formula One, who gets into this really bad accident. His career is almost tragically ended. And then fast forwarding 30 years, he is brought back to this company to be their driver once again, driving alongside the team's new hotshot racer. And you know, I gotta be honest, I'm not too big on these racer type of movies. They're just not a genre that really interests me all that much, but there is no secret that Brad Pitt is a phenomenal actor himself. And this seems like it's going to be a very deep cutting type of film. Another one of those stories where somebody is kind of struggling that they may not be as great as they once were. So I'm probably gonna find myself tuning into this one. I mean, why not? But that is all of the discussion and all of the announcements that I thought were the most interesting over at CinemaCon for day 1 and 2. Day 3 is happening as we speak, so once that wraps up, you know you're going to hear from me about it. Today for day 3, it is going to be Universal Pictures and Amazon who are going to be the studios that are talking at day 3. So I can't wait to see what they got lined up. Maybe we'll get some information regarding the Spider-Man Noir project. Who knows? But that is it for now. You stay to the end of this video. I appreciate you. Thank you so much. Hit that like button so we can push this out. Hit that subscribe button so you stay updated and don't miss out on any of the videos that I put out later. But as always, I'm out. Y'all be smooth and stay geeked up.